You've probably seen this image. It's of a sun disk with big, beautiful wings stretched out on the side of it. In fact, it's the image that's on the thumbnail associated with today's live stream. Now, this is called the winged sun. And if you look closely at the image, you'll find that there's not only the round image of the sun and then the wings, sticking out of the side of the sun, but in front of this round sun image are two serpents. And if you look closely in all the places that you see this image, and it turns out many places, for example, it turns out, like I was going to say before I get into all the places where it turns out, if you look closely, you will see that there are these serpents' heads, cobra heads on either side of the sun disk. Now, like I said, this is a strange image, but it has some kind of resonance with us because you see it in many places. Now, you see it in the places where you'd expect to see it, such as books or videos or documentaries about Egypt. But you also see it, and I guess this isn't surprising either, but you might see it in Egyptian jewelry, but you see it in popular jewelry as well. And I've even seen it on a fabric for, I don't know, curtains or something. But people love this image. And I did some research on it and found out it's on the knob, the caduceus, the staff of Hermes that is shown to denote healing. Well, right on the top of the staff, there is the sun, and then it's twined with the serpents that come up to the top beside the sun, and then the wings on either side. There you've got it again, the winged sun disk. And it's also a symbol for Freemasonry and Theosophy, which is the philosophy of Madame Helena Blavatsky, and also something else of the Rosicrucians. Now, it's even been used as a trademark on vehicles and military aircraft. We love this image. And it originally was associated with divinity, royalty, and power. Now, it evidently first appeared in images in Egypt in the Old Kingdom. So it's not a recent image. It's from long, long ago. And today I'm asking the question, based on my memories of Atlantis, did it come from Atlantis? Oh, I'm reading here from Ryan. Hey, Ryan, it's great to have you here. What attracted me to this video, Ryan says, was that I had a supernatural experience once involving a sun. And as crazy as this may sound, I was sitting on the living room of my house and a sun manifested. And he says, of course, I can't explain it. Of course, you can't explain it. However, maybe the next part of what I'm going to talk about, it might help for you to understand it. Because, oh, and by the way, hello, it's Caroline Chapman, and I'm the author of When We Were Gods, which is a memoir of my memories of Atlantis. So now I'm going to talk about my memories of Atlantis. And this might be helpful for you, Ryan, because in Atlantis, I saw myself as a sun. I was a light being. I'd actually come from another star system, from Arcturus. Now, I didn't go to the hypnotherapist because I was crazy about any of this. I went to the hypnotherapist to lose weight. And when we went through a past life regression, this is what turned up, that I'd come from Arcturus. I was a light being, and that I'd become caught in the physical on Earth, but I was a light being, a round, glowing, like you said. You had, Ryan, you said a sun manifested. So, based on my memories of Atlantis, see, I was originally a sun, and I wasn't the only one. Those of us who came here from Arcturus, we were light beings. And, nowadays they make aliens to look like these grays, which are basically a version of a human being, only a strange kind of face. But I have videos about this as a light being, and that was the only way I could get through the Stargate. So I am wondering if this light that you saw was actually a a being, a light being, because I believe that when we die and separate from the body, we are still light. And this might be a way of the light being another way of describing the soul. We don't have to go down there. So, in my memories of Atlantis, I started as this sun, glowing sun, light being, but I got caught in the energy of the earth, which is a very physical energy. And I became what I called a wisp of smoke. I was still a light being, but now I was enough physical that I was sort of like smoke. So Brian says when the sun came from a pinpoint and enlarged to about 555 feet, I actually thought I was going to slide off into that sun and die. Wow, that must have been an amazing experience. Just an amazing experience. I'm wondering if you saw your own light being. I'm wondering if you said you had a supernatural experience sitting on the living room and the sun manifests. I wonder if while you were sitting there, you sort of went into a meditative state. And in that meditative state, when we sleep, our eternal self can separate from the body. It's still connected by this cord, not a physical cord, but a spiritual type of cord. And it isn't till we die that the light being part of us permanently separates from our body. So when I'm going to die, the light being that keeps me, that's in me now, is going to separate, and after a while it'll go into another body. This is how I see things based on my experience. So I'm wondering then, Ryan, if your experience was actually while being awake, experiencing that eternal light part of yourself. This is just a guess on my part. I have had out of body experiences. I'm remembering now when I had one of my out of body experiences, I was a glowing blue light. Excuse me. And the interesting thing is, I was pregnant at that time. And around my abdomen, in the middle of this glowing blue light, was a red light, which I took to be the baby. But from Arcturus, we were a light being with sort of a blue tinge to our light. So maybe that's why I saw myself as a blue light when I was out of my body. So, hey, Ryan, what do you think? Does that sort of resonate with you? Oh, okay. If you want to email me, it's Carol at carolchapmanlive.com. And you can also see it on my channel. There's that banner up at top on my channel, and then over on the left, you'll see the link to my email. So you can send me the whole story because I bet it's interesting. So I'm just going to go on now with what I was going to talk about, that sun disk and my memories of Atlantis, because I believe that this sun disk that we see in the Pharaoh's tomb is actually originally started off as a memory of Atlantis. The ancient Egyptians probably had an oral tradition where they, before they were writing things down, were remembering things by telling stories about things. So they talked about how these Atlanteans had come to Egypt, but they weren't people in bodies. They were these light beings, and they came via this serpent power, that they flew by serpent power. So now I'm going to tell you what my experience was in Atlantis. In Atlantis, we weren't as tightly bound into the physical bodies that we inhabited the way we are now. Remember, I said earlier, now to leave the body, you die, and you can go in and out when you're sleeping, but you're still connected. But the only way you disconnect is when you die. However, in Atlantis, the body would sort of be going on automatic. And sometimes I think about how we sort of live our lives on automatic. So in Atlantis, as there was this fear of the earthquakes and the land breaking up, we could pull, those of us who were gods and goddesses. I was a goddess. The hypnotherapist asked me, "What are you?" And I looked at her like it should be obvious. I'm deeply hypnotized, but I said, "I'm a goddess," because it should be obvious to her. But in any case, I was able to pull out of the physical body and just be my real self, this light being. But the thing is, because I was now caught in the physical on earth, I couldn't move the way I could when I was free of this star system here. And I needed something to give me momentum. And we in Atlantis used other animals. We would go into different animals because our light being self could pull in and out of different animals. So I fell into a serpent's mouth, and then the serpent gave me the momentum to fly through space. And then I got to this safety land in Egypt. So I can imagine the Egyptian people seeing these people coming from Atlantis all lit up. And then we would go into a body, and then we would be, they have images of the gods and goddesses in Egypt with the light being on top of their head. That's how the gods and goddesses are represented in the Pharaoh's tombs, because the gods and goddesses were still beings that could be their real light being self. God, that just sounds so confusing, but hopefully there is something in what I'm saying that's going to make your experience, Ryan, more sort of normal. And I got to tell you, when I first had these past life regressions, they seemed, oh, I was like, this is crazy. And that's why I'm doing these videos, because I figure I'm not the only one. And in fact, I have met some other people, and I'm glad you're here, Ryan, today, that have had similar kinds of experiences. Now, I found this image in real life when I went to Egypt. And remember, my experience was the light being fell, here's the serpent's mouth, into the serpent's mouth, and then I was flying through space. And then I landed in Egypt, where we were building the Great Pyramid. But the Great Pyramid, which was only halfway built, was surrounded by marshy, wet lands kind of situation. But when I went to Egypt in the year 2000, I had to see this image in the Pharaoh's tomb. So I was looking around in the Valley of the Kings to find this. And where did I find it? I found it in the tomb of Tutmos III. but I was looking on the walls. I was looking on the walls, and there was a guide there. And I said, I told him what I was looking for, and he pointed up. The image was on the ceiling of the tomb. It wasn't on the walls. You seldom see this picture because people who go in to take photographs of the tombs and the images on the tombs, they don't look up. I looked up and there it was flying, just like in that thumbnail of mine, flying overhead. It was so huge on the ceiling of the Pharaoh's tomb that to take a photo of it with my camera, I had to lay on the floor in the Pharaoh's tomb. But what was exciting to me, and if you get a chance, look at the thumbnail that goes with this live stream, you'll see that in the background, it's a dark background and there are stars. So this really was an image of what I'd experienced, which was flying through space, not our sense of space, flying like an airplane through the air. So they had it with all of these stars in the background. It's really something special. All right. So, as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about all of this, and I'm just thrilled that you're here, Ryan, as well. Welcome. Welcome to our group of people who have unusual things that we've experienced, that we've seen, that we've remembered. And also, I'm going to be continuing with this series, which has to do with finding evidence of Atlanteans in ancient ruins. And next week, which is going to be Thursday, May 11th at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, I'm going to talk about the headgear of the pharaohs and how it is, in my humble opinion, based on my memories and experiences of being a light being, that it is a representation of the light being, and specifically this time in Atlantis when we use the serpent power for transportation. So that's next week, Thursday, May 11th, 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And I'm also doing a series on having to do with how to know your past lives without going to a hypnotherapist. And my next episode in that series is going to be on Tuesday, May 9th at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And on Tuesday, my specific topic is going to be how to know past lives based on the difficulties you're having in this life, because likely the difficulties you're experiencing in this lifetime are of a karmic origin from a previous lifetime. It's the kind of thing where people say, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, it's likely a result of something that happened long ago. You didn't do it in this lifetime, especially if you're a good person. It's likely as a result of some kind of mistake you made or some kind of difficulty you had long ago. Anyway, that's been my experience. And also, I've done research on this as well about what psychics say. So it's been great talking with you today. And if you got value from this, please give a like. And I have more videos on these topics. So if you're interested, please subscribe. And well, this was wonderful. See you next time. Toodaloo. Bye bye.